We are halfway through the month of May 2022 already, and the sheep have now been on this one little section for 2 days. Look at that, they eat dandelions. But they will eat right down to the nub, so this is why once we actually have pasture, we're gonna have to move them. That's splotchy. Let's see what splotchy likes. It's interesting to see what they eat first and then what they'll eat next. So, welcome to Healing Pastures and Apocalypse Gardens. This is Mark Shepard, your Minister of Agroculture, and it is May 15th, 2022. I don't know when you're going to be watching this, but if you are watching this and you do like this content, please subscribe, give me a thumbs up, please share this with somebody, please leave a comment below, and let's get started. Today, it's the day after we had a nice rain, and you can see behind me the area that the sheep were in. It's the area I just cleared, and there's very little growing there, but there is some stuff starting to grow. But I opened up this little area behind me for the sheep, and they haven't even bothered to go out into this larger paddock here since they've actually had grass to eat. Now, they've had hay, so I'm not starving them, but the beauty is the animals are teaching me what they like to eat, and I am learning how to manage them so that we don't overgraze paddocks. Because the traditional way of doing animals in this country, or pretty much a lot of different places, is what we call continuous grazing, where the animals are outside and they're free to roam and they're free to eat whatever they want, which is good. The challenge is, particularly with cattle, they only eat the stuff they like. So weeds start invading the pastures, and you can drive by any pasture around here or any place in upstate New York or New England or wherever, and you can see pastures that are just either overgrown with weeds or the grass is cut right down to the very nubs, and the sheep will do that. I'm gonna turn them loose today in some of this, I think, or maybe down by the river. I haven't decided, but before I do that, it's time for my Sunday message. And I am a big believer in the Sabbath, and it could be a 30-second Sabbath, could be a minute, could be a half hour, could be an hour, could be a day, whatever it is. Sometimes we need to stop. We need to stop because we're running in patterns, thought patterns, as well as habitual behaviors that are getting us what we've always gotten. And I had a friend of mine today who we talk about spiritual ideas, and she was saying, well, why would I choose, and this is not her, many people have said this, if I'm creating my own reality, why would I choose to create a reality that causes me to be miserable, right? And the question is, why do people choose to climb Mount Everest? Because it's dangerous. Some people die, and it's certainly not comfortable. It's a miserable experience. But if we are part of God, if we are part of the sea of awareness, if we are waves upon the sea of awareness, and the sea of awareness is experiencing material, physical awareness through us, then there's no bad experience. And it's hard for us to wrap our minds around that because we have feelings. Things hurt us. The physical body is weak. Just the other day, for some reason, medieval torture devices showed up in my YouTube channel. Like, huh? They have museums with this stuff. People used to do horrible, horrible things to prisoners. The Spanish Inquisition, for me, one of the challenges I had of being a Christian was that I didn't want to be a part of a faith that tortured people to make them confess to be, heretics, or that would burn people at the stake just because they didn't believe what the church said they should believe. And to me, that's a total destruction, a total obstruction of what Jesus's message was, is that God is love. The kingdom is within. Love one another. And I am being absolutely bombarded by bugs right now. I don't know if you can see it on camera. Why would I come out here and allow the bugs to eat me when I could be inside, right? Well, it's beautiful out here. And the experience of being alive is ultimately, whether it's painful or just wonderful all the time, life is an experience. Life is an experience. And I was telling a friend of mine this week about a time in my life when I was under extreme financial duress. It was clear to me in my 20s that somehow I was not going to be discovered by record companies, and my music wasn't going to get out into the world, and I needed to support a family. I had children and a wife, and so I ended up doing this title insurance agency thing, which was a job I kind of fell into, and then I ended up opening my own title agency, and I saw people every day buying houses for nothing down, and then flipping them for 10% or 20% more a week, a month, 6 months down the road. And so I was like, I got to get into this. I got to make money so I can record my music. That's been my lifelong passion, but it was really torture because I'm not good at making money. Money doesn't excite me. The only thing that excites me about money is to be able to do what I want to do. And I want to record my music. I've wanted to record my music. But back in the day, a recording studio, just the mixing board would cost $100,000. And so I started working at recording studios, and every spare minute, every spare piece of money I could get, I would use to record songs. And as I listen to them today, they're not very good. The recordings were not that good. And for me, it's been tremendously freeing that technology has enabled me to start recording in my basement. Basically my bedroom is in my dad's basement, right? And I could take that as a failure in life. Oh, I don't have my own house, right? But I had 4 houses that I bought for nothing down back in the 1990s, late 80s, early 90s, and I lost them all. It all went down, and it was one of the most freeing things that ever happened. It was torture at the time. But looking back, it released me from a lot of things, and eventually having the kids caused me to write kids songs, and having kids songs meant that I could actually make a living as a musician. And then I eventually realized as a storyteller and a drummer, I could do even better. And so I did that for many years as a freelance singer, songwriter, guitarist, percussionist, storyteller type guy, multi-instrumentalist. And it turned out to be extremely stressful, right? It was some people saying, oh, you're so lucky, you get to do what you love for a living. And sort of traveling around all over New England, doing a school performance, packing it all up, setting it up, packing it up, going to the next one. And I had no support. I didn't have anybody helping me. I did it all by myself, and I would do direct mail, which would cost a lot of money, which I often didn't have, just to do the postage and the printing. And then I would get gigs, and sometimes it would take a year or two to get gigs from a mailing, and it was another lesson. another lesson of, oh, okay, this is sort of okay, but it still hurts. Everything hurts. And so over the years, I did work on myself. I did healing work. I studied with healers because I was in so much pain. And I get why a lot of musicians do drugs because in order to be a decent musician, you have to be sensitive. You have to feel things because you have to feel the music. You have to be able to notice that, oh, you know, this guy's just sped up the beat or slowed down the beat, or is he going to pause here? Or, you know, you have to be able to be sensitive. Otherwise, you're not a good musician. An insensitive musician is a bad musician, and no one wants to listen to that. So musicians tend to be emos, emotional driven people, or emotionally sensitive people. And so being sensitive means there's pain, right? There's an analogy I use a lot for when I work with anxiety clients when I was doing that work. And that is, there's a microphone called a Shure 58. It's made by a company called Shure, and S-H-U-R-E. And it's the typical rock and roll microphone. You know, it's got a little ball at the end, and rock and roll singers sing very close into it because it cancels out the noise of the band. It's a close mic. And you can scream into it, you can shout into it, you can probably drop it, mic drop, bloop. It's not going to hurt the microphone, right? But in the studio, and it's a $100 microphone. It was a $100 microphone 20 years ago, and you can still buy one for about $100. Isn't that interesting? But then the studio microphone, we put in a shock mount because it's so sensitive, right? And it's a really good microphone. Some people are the studio microphones, and some people are the rock and roll live band noise canceling microphone. Did you see all the bugs flying around me? I'm doing this for you people. So in our lives, we experience situations that cause us pain. And there's no way around it. Every single one of us, into each life some rain will fall. I wrote a song about that. Of course, but I don't know if I remember it. I think I recorded it a long time ago. I don't know if I can find it. But into each life some rain will fall. People that we love die. Economic situations change. We are in the midst of one of the most intense transformational technology epics in the history of the human race. I mean, things are changing so quickly, and that is causing us stress. Then there's the government, right? There's taxes. There's just economic situations beyond our control. The pandemic caused a lot of pain. The war in Ukraine is not looking very hopeful for the world because of the interruption of grain. People grow grain in Ukraine and in Russia, and on and on and on. There's so many things out in the world that seem to be happening that seem to be bad. Cryptocurrencies took a hit last week, and any of you have been following my life in 2017, I've got to figure out this money thing because I want to pay people to do video editing, and I want to record, and that all costs money. And so I started studying money, and I got into cryptocurrencies, and I made a lot of mistakes, but at one point I was able to work, I don't know, $2,500, $5,000, something like that, up to $40,000 in December of 2017, and then we had crypto winter. And I didn't have any other choice but to hold on. And then not too long ago, those cryptos that I held were suddenly worth a heck of a lot more, which taught me a very valuable lesson, which is long-term thinking. And everything I'm doing here, starting a farm, is long-term thinking. I've planted hazelnuts here down along the river. I won't get hazelnuts for several years, maybe 5, maybe 10 years. Long-term thinking. So if you are in a place of deep pain right now, I want to beseech you to be patient. The poet Rilke said to the young man who wrote him asking advice about poetry, I beg you to be patient with all the unsolved mysteries of your heart, something to that effect. I beg you to be patient. If you are in an intense, difficult situation, financially, emotionally, physically, mentally, I beg you to do this simple exercise. Imagine floating up above your body, up above your life. Imagine your life stretched out in a timeline. Go out 20 years into the future, or 10 years, or 5 years, or 30 years, whatever makes sense for you. Go out into the future and turn and look back. I got to do it mirror. Turn and look back and see whatever situation you're in resolve in a way that could be absolutely better than you could possibly imagine. I thought my life was over when one day I could not make the payments on the mortgages on the 4 houses that I owned. And the title insurance agency took a hit because there was an economic downturn and people stopped buying houses. And houses were suddenly worth a lot less than people owed on them. That could happen again. All kinds of things could happen. One of the reasons I am growing food is because there's so much uncertainty in the world. And not only do I like growing food, and not only do I feel that it tastes good, not only is it, to me, the patriotic thing to do in the face of possible food shortages and supply line interruptions, but for me, it's a long-term plan. If I can't make money selling my meat, I can at least eat it, right? As long as I have electricity, right? So the next step is to look into solar power and wind power, hydropower, blah, blah, blah. All these things, every challenge in our life brings with it an opportunity to transform, an opportunity to transcend the pain. And that doesn't mean that the pain is your fault. People would ask Jesus, whose fault is it that this man is sick? Did his parents sin or did he sin? And Jesus was like, no, it's not anybody's fault. However, healing is possible. The human body is a miraculous thing. And a lot of our health and well-being is created with the thoughts and the focuses that we hold in our mind. What are we focusing on? Are you focusing on this tree? Are you focusing on the river? Are you focusing on, look at this pasture. This is not a pasture. It's practically a desert. Should I be upset about that? No, because look at all this grass outside the pasture. So if I can figure out how to get the sheep outside the pasture without exposing them to predators, then I will. So everything that we are experiencing in our lives, everything can be turned around to be a gift. But I can't say to you, hey, this horrible thing that just happened in your life, that's a gift. I can't say that, but you can. If you turn and look at the situation in your life that seems dire, that seems hopeless, that seems tragic, what if there is another way to look at it that actually makes you feel better? And that doesn't mean you lie to yourself. Well, maybe you do need to lie to yourself. Maybe you need to say, hey, this is perfect and I don't know why it's perfect. But years from now, go out into the future and turning and looking back and seeing, I got to do it this way, turning and looking back and seeing, or looking behind you and seeing, oh, okay, if that hadn't happened, I wouldn't have been led to this situation or met that person, right? It was clear that my dad needed somebody to live with him. It was clear. And you could say, oh, that's a bad thing. Well, good thing, bad thing, right? There's an old farm story. Farmer was out in his field and the neighbor comes over to him and is like, oh, you have beautiful horses. That's great. And the farmer's like, yeah, good news, bad news, whatever. And one day the horses got loose and they all disappeared. They ran off with a wild stallion, and the neighbor's like, oh, that's bad news. And the farmer's like, oh, good news, bad news. Then the son went out and he managed to capture the stallion and bring not only his horses back, but some other wild ones. And the neighbor's like, oh, good news. And the farmer's like, good news, bad news. And then the farmer's son tried to train the stallion and he ended up falling off the stallion and he broke his leg. And the neighbor's like, oh, that's bad news. And the farmer's like, good news, bad news. And then there was a war and the people came around to get the young men and take them to the war. And they didn't take the farmer's son because his leg was broken. Good news, bad news. Is it bad news? Is it good news? We don't know. We don't have the perspective. I've said this before and I'll say it again in the Course in Miracles. There's a saying, a phrase that says, you do not know what is in your best interest. We don't have a high enough, wide enough, long range enough view to interpret whatever's going on right now in our lives as good or bad. And the thing is to take whatever we are experiencing and grow from it, use it to change, to transform, to heal, and to support the people we love as best we can without telling them, oh, this is really good for you. Yeah, I'm not in pain, but you're in pain, and it's good for you. I can't say that to you. But wherever you are, whatever you are struggling with, other people have struggled as well. And some of us have made it through. Some of us have gone back to the sea of awareness for a do-over. I just want you to know you are not alone in your struggles. We are all here in these bodies that hurt, these bodies that are so sensitive to pain, but also to pleasure. My friend, I wish you all the best. I think about you all the time. I send out light and love to you from my heart. I wish you the best. I wish you a day that is magical. I wish you a week that is joyful and productive. I wish you a life that when you are very, very old, you look back and go, wow, that was an amazing life. I made a difference. I had an incredible experience. I saw things. I experienced things. I changed things for the better. I left the world a little better place. And I send my love out to be magnified, to be accelerated, to be transformed into love in your heart, health in your body, wisdom in your mind, and peace above all. Peace, love, and grooviness. Amen. Peace, love, grooviness. Over and out. Boom. So, to go with my talk this week, I found a song called Not a Day Goes By, which I kind of forgotten I'd written, and I think it really fits our theme this week. And so I want to share that with you now. So hopefully you'll stick around and listen to that, and then I'll talk to you at the very end. I got some really sweet pig wallowing footage for you. So here it goes. Here's the song. Boom. Not a day goes by when I do not wonder why we are the way we always seem to be. What if we leave the chains behind that exist only in our minds, and choose a path that dares us to be free? Though we have failed before and may fail again, I beg your patience, please, till you can hold the shift and accept a lift from the prevailing breeze, so we can strike the match that reignites the flame that no one can explain. And we have the wings to rise above the pain. And the love I hold for you, well, it makes me catch my breath. For you and I are sewn from the very same cloth, and together we are more, and our steps are swift and sure, and every doubt is merely part of the plan. But if you've built your walls so thick and tall that you cannot climb or clear, then I will sing this song and sing it loud and long till you cannot help but hear. And even while you sleep, my tune will sink deep into your ears, because freedom never bows to fear. And the thought of your smile, even if it takes a while, enables me to dare yet another day. So my fingers caress these strings, and in spite of everything, something larger than we are vibrates the air. And now a light of sorts begins to pour forth into the night, while the eyes that were so blind and sore fill themselves with light, and the bones of all that went before are now bleached dry and white. And I offer you my hand as we land upon a farther shore. guys were sleeping in these puddles earlier today. Yeah, they can't sweat, so they need mud and water to keep cool on hot days. It has just shifted though, it's a little cooler now. What's going on with your fur over here? Looks like you're starting to shed a little bit. Yes. All right, so another week has passed and all is well here on the farm. I hope all is well with you wherever you are and that you get to wallow if you need to. Yes, yes. But sometimes it just feels good to get into the mud and be at home. All right, that's it for this week. Thank you, folks. Thank you so much for watching, and thanks for all the kind comments I've been getting. It means so much to me. Peace, love, grooviness. Over and out. Talk to you next time. Boom. Yeah, baby. Get right in there. Get right in there. That's my girl. That's my rubber tummy. You get a little water. Yeah, baby. That's a rubber tummy. The other's like, they don't even know. They don't know. There's my tummy rubby. Good girl. Does that feel good?